بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Respected brothers and sisters, welcome back and belated Eid Mubarak. I wish you all a happy and blessed Eid. We have been taken off maybe for I think 2 weeks now. So it's time to resume and continue. If you still remember, we stopped on how to determine the value of the assets that you have. Now this slide actually is exclusively for merchants and business people. Okay, let's say for example that you have a car dealership or you have a grocery store. How to determine the value of the assets that you have. Okay, you have cars in the lot, okay, and you have furniture and you have some other tools and devices and other things that you use to run your business. But the only thing that is for sale, that's called like merchandise, okay, that you offer for your customers to buy, is the cars only. So whatever is zakatable in this example, in the car dealership example, is the cars only. Anything else actually is not zakatable, and I already covered this issue. Now the question here, how to determine the value of those cars. People actually have 3 different ways of determining the value of the assets. Now, for example, you can go with the retail value. How much you are asking if you want to sell today retail all the cars that you have in your lot, or if you want to sell today all the snacks and all the like food items, okay, or the groceries that you have in your grocery store, how much you are asking for. You pay zakah based on that. Now this is one way of determining the value, but it is not fair enough, because the retail value actually is the listing price. This is what you are asking for. This is what you want to sell those commodities or merchandise or goods for. However, you might get that price and you might not. You might get that price, okay, you might receive that money and you might not. So it's not fair enough to pay zakah based on the retail value. Let me go back with just focus on one example, which is the car dealership. Okay, let's say that you bought all these cars a few months ago and you paid for them $100,000. Now the retail value is $150,000. Do not pay zakah. Do not pay zakah on $150,000, because you might get the 150 and you might not. Now this is one way. The other way is to go with what is called the invoice value or the book value. Invoice value means how much you already paid, you actually paid for this, for those cars. If you go back to your records, you might find out that you actually paid $100,000, okay, 6 months ago to buy those cars, and you did not sell any one of them. You still have them parking in the parking lot. So the invoice value or the book value, if you wish, is $100,000. Should you pay zakah on 100,000? My answer is no as well, because the invoice value or the book value of those commodities or cars in our example might be the same today in the zakah due date and might be different. Very, very possible that the market value of the cars, okay, today is less than 6 months ago. Okay, especially when it comes to food and grocery businesses. Okay, now a grocery store owner might buy or might make an order for a snack, right? And for some reason the snack stayed in his store for a few weeks, maybe a few months, and was not sold at all for a reason or another, until the snack get expired. Now the actual market value of the snack today and the zakah due date, the expired one, is zero. And the matter of fact, it's even illegal to sell something that is expired. So even if you bought, this snack for $5,000 a few weeks ago or a few months ago, its market value today in the zakat due date is zero. So the bottom line here is that do not go with the invoice market value. I'm sorry, with the invoice value. Do not go with the retail value. Go with something called the wholesale market value. The wholesale value or market value. What does it mean? It means that if you do not have all these cars that you have in your lot in the zakat due date in the month of Ramadan, if you do not have any of those cars and you want to buy them all wholesale from the auction, how much you are willing to pay for them all today in the zakat due date. Okay, if the answer is 110, then you have to pay zakat on 110. If the answer is only 75,000 wholesale market value, if you want to buy them today from the auction, then you pay zakat on the $75,000 only. Okay, so do not go with the invoice value, do not go with the retail value, go with the wholesale market value. Ask yourself a very simple question. If I do not have all these items in the zakat due date, how much am I willing to pay for all those items and buy them from the wholesalers? Whatever the answer might be, that is the money that you need to pay zakah on. Moving on, I'm not gonna spend too much time in this, discussing the agriculture products, because this presentation is for Muslims in the US, and the vast majority of the Muslim community in the US are not involved in farming business, to my knowledge. We are professionals and merchants and business people, so we are not like farmers, so to speak. So I don't think that we need to spend a lot of time explaining the different rules of agriculture products from a zakat perspective. Just briefly, everything that the land produces that can be eaten and stored, okay, ما يؤكل ويدخر, eaten, like something that's edible, and storable, that you can store for a certain period of time. Nowadays, everything actually is storable. You can just keep everything in the fridge for a few days. You can keep everything, like all the fruits and vegetables, maybe for months and months in the freezer nowadays. So even if the rules like a while ago that zakat should be paid only for certain items, it's not the case nowadays. Nowadays everything actually is zakatable, because everything is eaten. Everything eaten is storable. It could be stored. So gains, beans, fruit, dates, vegetables, etc. When it comes to the nisab, it is khamsatu awsuq, according to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Bear in mind that al-wasaq, awsuq actually is plural, and the singular is wasaq. The wasaq actually is not a weight, it's a volume. Okay, it is a volume more than to be a weight. So when we say that the 650 kilograms, this is actually not that accurate, because khamsatu awsuq, 5 wasaqs of wheat, might be weight-wise, might be different than like 5 wasaqs of rice, of sugar, of date fruit, of beans, of different kinds of vegetables. So let's go with the wasaq, with the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and forget about the the kilograms or the how many pounds. But rough estimate, I would say 650 kilograms. Output from irrigated land, as long as irrigation entails like expenses, like when you pay for the irrigation, for the fertilizer, for the operation expense, and for the labor, etc., then the zakah is 5%. Output from non-irrigated land, غير المسقية, that's 10% of the gross value. No zakah is due on the agricultural land itself. We said several times that لا ثنية في الصدقة, no duplication in taxation or in paying zakat al-mal. If you pay zakah on the agricultural products, then the land itself, okay, the land or the the farm itself is zakah exempt. Briefly, livestock, ovine or bovine. Ovine means like sheep, lamb, or goat. As you see here, the schedule in front of you. I'm not going to go through the details. For bovine, for example, whether cows or buffalo, here is the schedule in front of you. Camels, I mean, just in case if someone does have camels, here is the zakah list, okay, or the schedule for paying zakah. As you see, like the threshold is 5 camels, from 5 to 24, then 1 sheep for each 5 camels, and you go on and on. Moving on, let's talk about let's talk about the zakah recipients. Those different categories have been designated, specified by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not even authorize Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, our prophet, to determine who are the eligible zakah recipients. Rather, actually, he listed them in the Quran, the very famous ayah, إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل. So we have 8 different categories. Now let's try to understand each and every category. The first 2 are al-fuqara wal-masakin, the poor and the needy, the poor and the needy. And we have like a diverse opinions or approaches within the 4 different madhahib regarding the proper definition of al-faqir, the poor, versus al-miskin, the needy. At the end of the day, they both are eligible zakah recipients. Now, some said that al-faqir, the poor, is the one who does, work and earn money, but his earning is insufficient for him. While al-miskin actually is the one who does not have any source of income. Some madhahib said, like schools of thought, said no, al-faqir actually is the one who asks, like for sadaqah publicly. He does not mind like standing and stretching his hand, asking people for sadaqah. While al-miskin is the one who has that like dignity or self-respect or shyness, whatever you want to call it. And based on that, he does not or she does not ask people publicly for donation. Whether you go with the first definition or the second one, at the end of the day, both categories actually are eligible zakah recipients. Not only that, if you ponder on the ayah, on the verse in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala added the lam, إنما الصدقات للفقراء, for the poor and for the needy, which means that if you want to take care of the first and the second category, you need to give them the money, you need to give them the zakah. Do not act on their behalf. Give them the zakah and let them just take care of it. Give them the zakah money, whether you pay it in cash or you pay it in kind. It has to be for them. Okay, it has to be for them. You give them the money or the food or the zakah and let them take care of themselves. Bear in mind that he started subhanahu wa ta'ala with the fuqara and masakin, fuqara, before any other category, just to emphasize the importance of those 2 different categories. Which means that before you take care of other recipients, you have to make sure that all the needy or the poor individuals in your community are fully and completely satisfied, okay, and they get whatever they need before you start like looking for different categories to pay them zakatul mal. So as you see here, al-faqir or al-fuqara, those who have insufficient resources, even if he has a high income. That's absolutely correct. Even if someone makes $100,000, but the total expenses, the annual expenses are more than 100,000, as long as those expenses are legitimate expenses, then that individual is not leading an extravagant lifestyle, then that person is an eligible zakah recipient. Okay. Now, as I said several times, that individual, like if you are in charge of any of the masajid or the zakah committee or the zakah fund, if that individual who makes $100,000 applies, for zakah, you will be rejecting him for fact, right? But the fact that you reject him does not mean that he is not an eligible zakat recipient. Actually, he is, but maybe other individuals are like, in need more than that particular individual, and that's why you deny him. We are not here to discuss priorities. We're here to discuss eligibility. Is that individual who makes $100,000 annual income and has legitimate expenses without leading extravagant lifestyle is more than 100,000? Is that person is an eligible zakat recipient or not? The answer is yes, he or she is an eligible zakat recipient. Number two, al-masakin, those people who are lacking any resources, who do not have any source of income. Again, I mean, this is like one classification or one standard of differentiating between al-faqir and al-miskin, but this is not the only opinion that we have. Category number three, or even before I go to number three, when I mean, if you go with the madhab or the opinion that al-miskin, the needy one, is the one who does not ask. The question here, we as community members, how can we know that someone is an eligible zakat recipient and we have to give him zakat al-mal despite the fact that he is not asking for zakat? He does not even identify himself as a needy individual. The answer is we need to look for people and ask about the financial situation of people. We as community members or community leaders, at least in the masajid, like imams and board members and zakah committee members, we have to navigate and just look for those individuals who are in dire need for zakah, but because of their self respect and dignity, maybe shyness, they do not ask, they do not declare themselves as eligible zakat recipients. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described them in the Quran, يَحْسَبُهُمُ الْجَاهِلُ أَغْنِيَاءَ مِنَ التَّعَفُّفِ. Now, because of their dignity and self-respect and not showing any need for other people, others might think that, oh, those people actually are in a very good financial situation. They do not know what's going on. So it is our collective responsibility as a community to navigate and to look and to ask for those people who are in need for zakat and to give them their share of zakatul mal. Number three, or category number three, is al-amiluna alayha. إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها. The zakah administration or the zakah workers, those who work in the zakah department, collecting, distributing, packaging, collecting like data about individuals and their financial situation, determining or studying like cases and finding out who is eligible and who is not eligible. All the zakah workers actually do deserve a part of zakat al-mal. Now, when they take zakah, they do not take it because of their need. They take it because of the time and effort that they designate to run the zakah affairs of the community. Okay. Now, I want to emphasize something important here. When a certain charitable organization wants to hire a professional to do some professional service, whether IT, whether zakah collection, zakah distribution, whatever work might be, that organization has to pay those individuals fairly. Okay, if someone holds a bachelor degree in IT and he or she works for corporate America and takes between $70,000 to $80,000 a year, okay, it's not fair at all to give him in that charitable organization only $40,000. You are directly or indirectly telling those people you are not welcome here. Go to corporate America and work, and you're gonna end up having some volunteers, very uncommitted volunteers. If you want to run your business professionally, then you have to have paid employees and professionals working for your organization in order for them to stay and to perform and to deliver and to get their loyalty to that business, you need to pay them fairly. So we should not, please excuse me all, we should not be cheap when it comes to hiring personnel to run the zakah affairs. Rather, we should pay them fairly. So العاملون عليها, the zakah workers, deserve their whatever is sufficient for them from zakat wal mal. Some people think that they have to take 1/8 because the categories are 8, so they have to be divided equally. This is actually incorrect. This is incorrect, and it has no base. The ayah means that if you want to pay zakat al mal, then you need to look for any of those 8 different categories who are eligible zakah recipients. But there is no indication in the Quran or in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that zakat al mal has to be distributed equally between those 8 different categories. So this is al-amiluna alayha. Now the fourth one is al-mu'allafati qulubuhum. Literally means those whose hearts are to be reconciled. Al-mu'allafati qulubuhum. In a very simple language, new Muslims, okay, new converts, those people who embrace Islam recently, they definitely can take from zakat al-mal, not because of their poverty, not because of their need, but actually because of being appreciated by the Muslim community at large. So when you give those people money, you tell them that we love you, that we care about you, you are so welcome to be a part of our community, and you express your gratitude and thankfulness by giving them from zakat al-mal. They do not have to be needy. It's all about helping them being more loyal, have that sense of belonging to the community. And subhanAllah, it's a human nature when you give people like gift or money, or you take care of their need, they start getting like more appreciative and thankful to you because of your good treatment. I mean, this is a part of our human nature. So new converts who just embrace Islam, leaders who have an influence on their non-Muslim followers, okay, can take from zakat al-mal. Some people ask, can zakat al-mal be given to potential or prospective Muslims, like those who did not embrace Islam yet, but they are expected, like they are very close and very loyal to the Islam and to the Muslim community? Can they take from zakat al-mal? Here is the answer. Zakat al-mal actually is a formal act of worship. Okay, it's a kind of ibadah. It's a formal act of worship. It's like salah. It's like fasting in the month of Ramadan. So we have to go with the book. We have to go with the book. If we collect zakat al-mal from everybody in the Muslim society, from Muslims and non-Muslims, then it is fair enough to give zakat al-mal to everybody, to Muslims and to non-Muslims. But in reality, we do not ask in the Muslim society, even if there is like a Muslim society and an Islamic regime that applies the Islamic law accordingly. Even if that is the case, non-Muslims who are living in the Muslim society are not addressed by all these rules. They are not required to pay zakat al-mal. So what I want to say here is that since we collect zakat al-mal from Muslims only, it is fair enough, okay, to pay zakat al-mal to Muslims only. Okay, the other question here, if non-Muslims, even though they are like very close to the Muslim community and they show loyalty and love and care about Muslims, even though, if they cannot take from zakat al-mal, can they take from the sadaqah and donation? The answer is, of course, yes. Can you pay your donation, non-zakah, like extra optional donation and sadaqah? Can you give it to non-Muslims? Of course, yes. You can do that. You can give it to your neighbors, to your friends, okay, for your community members, as long as they are in need. You definitely can give them from sadaqah and donation. But when it comes to zakah, zakah is like very technical. We collect zakatul mal from Muslims. It is fair enough to pay zakatul mal to Muslims only. For riqab, those in bondage, for riqab, like slaves and captives, they can take from zakatul mal to free themselves. The debt-ridden individuals, like if someone is overwhelmed with debt-ridden, okay, as long as that borrower or that debtor, okay, is in need for that financial aid, he does not have to be a poor, but he must be unable to pay the debt off. The debt was incurred because of a lawful expense. The debt is due immediately. Those are the three different conditions to give those debt-ridden individuals. And the conditions one more time. Number one, that individual, that debtor, must be in need for the financial aid. I'll give you an example. Someone actually has an outstanding balance of $10,000. Okay, he makes $6,000 a month. He spends $5,000 a month. He saves $1,000 a month. Okay, that person actually is not supposed to get money from zakatul mal or to be given zakatul mal, because he can take care of his own debt. He can like save some money and pay zakat. If that individual makes only 5,000, spends all the whole 5,000, he cannot make any saving, like put any money aside whatsoever. Even if that individual stays for years and years, he won't be able to pay off the zakah. This is what I mean by the debtor must be in need for the financial aid. He does not have to be a poor. Yes, I mean, someone works, makes money, but spends all the money. He cannot have any saving whatsoever. Technically speaking, this individual is not a poor individual, but he cannot save money. He cannot save money. Now, number two, the debt was incurred because of a lawful expense. He borrowed that money, okay, or he became indebted because of buying something that is necessary, right? Like buying a car or buying food or paying the rent of his apartment or his house, something that's legitimate. And number three, the debt is due immediately. If it is not a due debt, then that individual should not take from zakatul mal. I don't want to rush those 8 different categories. I want to take my time. It's now 8 o'clock on my side, so inshallah I will be continuing tomorrow. I'm sorry, next Tuesday, talking about the rest of the categories. Before I let you go, we do have a playlist. If you go to Guidance College channel in YouTube, you just click on a playlist. If you are interested in watching all these classes on zakah, just click on the playlist, and then you will see all these like different recordings about zakah for Muslims in the US. I'll see you inshallah next week at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.